Racism is entrenched in cricket.
Racism, sexism and classism are widespread.
Structural and institutional racism continues to exist within the game.
Sexism, classism, elitism were widespread.
English cricket is deeply sexist and elitist.
Racism, sexism, elitism, entrenched at the very heart of it.
Racist, sexist, elitist. English cricket in the dock.
England, the place where cricket was born, a sport which was created by rich landowners in the early 18th century to bet against each other. This sport was later exported around the world with the idea of civilizing so-called savage people. Fast forward to today, within the ever-progressing world, cricket in England is still not as progressive as many would like to believe. And the country seems to have woken up to this fact. Finally, thanks to a painfully frank wake-up call, a report released by the Independent Commission for Equity in Cricket that points at cricket in the country being institutionally racist, sexist, elitist and not an everyone's game. While the report being named Holding Up a Mirror to Cricket, it draws evidence from more than 4,000 sources, including players, captains, coaches, administrators and fans.
We expected to find problems. We were set up because the game and the ECB knew that there were issues around racism. We didn't quite expect to see the extent and the nature of some of the interpersonal discrimination that people are facing.
The report was commissioned by England and Wales Cricket Board, who as soon as the report got out, promised to publish a plan of action within the next 3 months and apologised.
Today's report is a wake-up call for cricket. We must never again exclude anyone on the basis of their ethnicity, gender or social background.
The report was also an alarm for county boards like that of Hampshire, who want to use this as an opportunity to clean and try to make the sport more inclusive, as they have been trying to do for the last few years, as per Greg Stewart, a Hampshire Cricket Club representative.
I think everyone who's involved in the sport who read the report it shone a light on some really difficult truths about the sport, and there was some really in-depth testimony from people that had been excluded from the game. I think our response to it, we were appalled by some of the testimony that was in there, and we just really want to use it as an opportunity to learn and make the sport more inclusive. I think great strides have been made in making the sport more inclusive over the last, certainly the last 5 or 10 years, but we need to do a lot more, and I think everyone in the game recognises we need to go further, we need to do more to make cricket a game for everybody, make everyone feel welcome within our stadiums, within our clubs, and there's no reason cricket shouldn't be a sport where everyone can be involved and has equal opportunity.
Talking about Hampshire, a county that has always held a special place in the English game, with the county team tracing its origins back from the historic Hambledon club. The county is also a birthplace of historic cricketers like Billy Taylor and Chris Tremlett, also second home for legends like Shahid Afridi and Shane Warne. In Hampshire lies a cricket club called HURSLEY Park, which long before the ICEC report came out, have been taking greater strides to be a welcoming place for people from every community, races and class. Being established in 1785, a club known for its inclusive values and support for the women's game, HURSLEY Park lays down a solid example for how a futuristic club with the core values of welcoming everyone can be run, and can be a prime example for supporting cricket to become everyone's game.
Welcome to HURSLEY Park Cricket Club. HURSLEY Park sits in the middle of Hampshire near Winchester, and we've been providing cricket here for over 200 years to the local community. We pride ourselves on being an inclusive club, and what do I mean by that? It means that we provide cricket here for everybody, men, women, boys and girls. We offer cricket from the age of 5 upwards. Most recently we had a 78-year-old turn out for one of the men's teams. We also need to look after the club for future generations and hopefully for the next 200 years, so we look to run the club prudently. Over the last 5 years we've undergone a programme of investment into the club, including new nets, electronic scoreboards, new covers, work on the ground, electronic payment systems, to try and bring the facilities up to date and make sure that we future-proof the club for the next generation.
Talking us through the history of the club, Chairman David Worthy explains how the club has transformed throughout the years.
The history of the club is kind of, sits with the people that lived through it. So I can give you a bit of background to some things that happened before my time. But the club originally was founded in 1785, and initially it just formed, I believe, it was workers on the home farm estate here in HURSLEY that came and played on these grounds. And so there's been various incarnations of HURSLEY Park Cricket Club over the years to what we see now, which is, I would say, much larger than it has been in the past and probably much more diverse.
Diving deep into its history, HURSLEY Park Life member Chris Westbrook explains how the club embraced its changes coming of age.
We had one side initially, and then the leagues came along, and we had quite a number of players who wanted to play because the ground was beginning to look a little bit smarter, and more people came along to play. We had enough for two sides, so we then extended to two sides, and really then it expanded to a third side and onto a fourth side. I think probably expansion came too about the time that we played Gowerton here in a National Village semi-final, when in fact 4,000 people came into the ground to watch, and that was a tremendous atmosphere, and people came along and actually viewed the ground, and from that we expanded.
Looking at the advancements in women's cricket in recent years, Chris also mentions how the club was already ahead of its time while making a new pavilion for the ladies.
First of all, we invited the women's team to come and play here, and that was just one team at that stage. And in fact they have grown now. I think they've got 3 league sides and juniors as well. And I think one of the innovations was in the Jeff Squire era, around about 2008. On the second ground we built a new pavilion, and Jeff Squire was instrumental in helping us to do that. But it was also opened by Rachel Hayhoe-Flint, who was next captain of England. The second ground was ostensibly for the use of the ladies' crickets, the third and fourth team, and the junior section. And the ladies have got great facilities really, with nets and a great pavilion over there.
Being critical about accepting the changes that are happening in the ladies' game, head of women's cricket Phil Green reveals how HURSLEY is giving more opportunities for female players by welcoming them in the men's teams.
It's difficult with all clubs to adapt to any sort of change, to be honest, before we sort of in the general terms. But there's a few barriers that women's teams have to tackle in all clubs, I think. I mean, just the obvious logistics, like not having separate changing rooms if they do play in mixed teams, etc. And also the acceptance generally that women can play cricket. I mean, it's that basic. But I think it's a challenge that women's teams everywhere have to embrace and take on.
In the last few years, cricket has slowly seen a change of culture taking place as more and more girls are taking up the sport. Observing this change closely at the grassroots level, Phil also brings up how cricket now has much more to offer as a profession for female players.
The opportunity to play professional cricket wasn't there even 5 or 6 years ago. First of all, you had the England offering central contracts to the internationals, which was the first step. But then more recently, of course, with the advent of the regional competitions, there's now something like 90 or 100 women in the country that have got full-time contracts. We've got 5 players here ourselves who have now got professional contracts in cricket. And what that does is means that the young ones now, like we have the under-9s here playing this morning, they can see, not that they're probably thinking of it at that age, but they can see that there is actually a future in cricket as a career, not just as a pastime. So it's just massive, I think, to make it professional. I think the 100 particularly has done a lot for the women's game. I'm not a big fan of it in terms of the development of the men's game, but I think for the women's game, the 100's been massive.
This kind of support for the ladies' game at the club has seen some noticeable changes in performances as well, as even being in a transitional phase this season, the club has done well with most of its teams.
Well, the first team play in the Southern League, and I think we're lying 4th at the moment. It's a bit of a transitional season. A lot of our players, as well as the players in the teams that we play against, are now on professional contracts. So it's good for them, obviously, and good for the development, but we don't see them that often because of that. They're not often available. So the team is vastly different over the last 2 or 3 years, really, but we've got good youngsters coming through, so they're doing okay, and I say they're 3rd or 4th. The second team who are playing here today are currently 2nd, I think, in Hampshire Division 1, but a long way behind the leaders. And our 3rd team are top of Hampshire Division 3, so they're going quite well at senior level.
On ground zero, female players like second team captain Sid Kr and overseas player Sarah Babar also have positive takeaways from what HURSLEY has to offer for the ladies' game to grow.
I feel like I've been supported quite a lot throughout the club, throughout the years that I've been here. Even when I joined, I felt like the girls around me were very supportive as well, and also with the coaches and the managers, they were really supportive, and like I've always wished the best for me.
Definitely a good option. We have such great quality setups, we have experienced players who can help youngsters get through. Definitely a lot of support for women at HURSLEY in the women's setup.
Looking at the present setup for women's cricket at HURSLEY, one can surely believe that the future of these players are in good hands. Susie, who is the under-13 fixture manager at the club and a parent of a ladies player herself, believes the same.
I think, there's a real pathway here. For example, again, just talking about my daughter, 18 months ago, she was thinking about giving up cricket because she wasn't sure whether she was good enough. We came here, she was given the opportunity to play lots of games, because that's what's great about this club, there's lots of games to be played. She got into the Hampshire setup. She's done really well there, and today she's making her debut for the women's second team. So I think this club wholly supports what's going on in the women's game, and I think there is a real pathway and support network. And I think these girls can see that there's other girls that have come through this pathway at HURSLEY, and they've gone on and they're professional cricketers now. So I think it gives everybody a chance and an ambition that if they can do it, then why can't I?
These progressive changes have made sure that HURSLEY gets its due recognition at the highest level. As HCC representative, Greg believes that the club is setting an example for all.
HURSLEY have led the way within women's cricket, and they've done a great job in attracting players and developing their teams to compete at the highest level. And that has no doubt had a really positive impact on the players coming into our county squads. But what I see across the county in women's cricket particularly is just far more people playing, and far more clubs being supportive and welcoming female players. I think certainly in the not too distant past, cricket clubs would not have felt like a very welcome place in a lot of cases for female cricketers, and having clubs like HURSLEY who've led the way in creating like really thriving, successful women's and girls sections has been really important as part of the transition.
Not only one can see the club taking greater strides in progressing the women's game, but it is also making sure that it's inclusive and welcoming for people from all backgrounds. Head of men's cricket, Nick Best, voices on what is the club's take on its diversity.
Well, I think all you need to do is look at the club. You've seen the club recently. Look at the amount of players that we have. We have a very diverse set of players. We have two or three players in the first team from ethnic backgrounds or whatever, are a valuable part of the club. With the ladies' side as well, we are one of the largest clubs with the women's side in the county. And so we have, to me, a great relationship, obviously, with anybody that wants to come and play cricket. To me, cricket is about playing and enjoying it and having fun, and it doesn't matter where you come from.
In the wake of the recent ICEC report, the state of the game doesn't look good for players coming from ethnic backgrounds. But HURSLEY Cricket Club has some strong policies against any kind of discrimination, and if time comes, Chairman David Worthy believes that the club will do the best it can to protect the club's motto of being inclusive and available to all.
Well, we have various policies which are adopted into our constitution. We have two welfare officers that look after both, and one is a male, one is a female, for the different sides of the club if necessary. The rules, I suppose, in terms of how we deal with it, we've adopted ECB guidance on most of those rules. They're in as I say, the constitution, and then it's up to the committee. If we have any instances where we need to invoke those rules, then it would be up to the committee to decide what to do in those instances. I'm not aware that we've had any specific problems in the recent past, I'm pleased to say. The success that we've enjoyed in the amount of cricket that we put on here for boys, girls, men and ladies, I don't recognise some of what those reports say. Perhaps as far as society is concerned, you see some of those things. I think a lot of the specifics that they picked out may have been relevant to particular clubs, but like I say, we have a very positive environment, very inclusive environment here. Pretty much all ages, genders, backgrounds are welcome to come and play cricket here, and I think we've demonstrated that we cater for everybody.
Some of the players from ethnic backgrounds at the club also acknowledge how the club has always been welcoming to them regardless of where they come from and has supported them in building their careers.
For me personally, HURSLEY has always given me the opportunity to play at my position, and has always backed me to play at the level that they think I can play at, and I've always thought that their assessment of me is the same as my assessment of myself. I've never been sort of disadvantaged to do anything. HURSLEY have a lot of new opportunities at school level where they are attracting just all diverse communities, and that's making a big impact in the under-13s at our club, and you get a lot of diverse communities joining our club.
I personally haven't experienced anything at all I've always felt like relatively included, and if there are cases where maybe I felt I wasn't as included, it would have probably been mainly to do just with my performance or the fact I was probably a younger kid at the time when I joined the men's team, for example, but on the whole I wouldn't say at all I've ever experienced really anything.
No matter what your background, they accept you and help you. They give everyone equal opportunities.
HURSLEY Park's welcoming structure doesn't just reflect on its players, but also on visiting teams. One of those visiting teams are London Cardinals, a West Indian players-based team who are coming to the club for over 30 years now. And as per Captain Kester Batiste, the club makes them feel like home.
Every time we come from since you drive down the park, the groundsman is like, right, you need to park there, don't park there, where's the rest of the guys, why are you so late? You're always giving us something to chop in. The groundsman is quite good. There's a few older members as well, they sort of know you from the last game. And, straight away they try and put you under pressure and you look at them and like, yeah, but the last year you come and be like, well, you lost last year, didn't you? So, it's quite good, it's good. It's amazing to come here and, enjoy this sort of atmosphere and feel as welcome, like, you haven't gone anywhere. It feels like home.
The club also believes that not only established teams like London Cardinals, but also new teams like that of Border Boys should be welcomed. And as per Border Boys captain Brian, their experience at the club was simply exceptional.
Besides the cricket, atmosphere, we've had a lovely barbecue, we had, a little bit of an auction for some player stuff, raffles, but there was great support here. And this is a great family club welcoming, and the underlying thing about this is that it's all about cricket, the friendships and the people around it, because it's a sport without boundaries, boundaries in the field, I suppose, but no, we'll definitely be coming back here if they invite us. I met the chairman this afternoon. He's asked if we could do a game next year, and we'd love to look at that.
With all its welcoming values and support for the women's game, top team captains Tim and Ollie believe that the club is heading in the right direction for a better future.
I think the future looks bright. We've secured promotion this season, both the ones and the twos, so we're back in the Premier League. We've got plans on the foot for a new pavilion. Our membership is increasing, so I think it looks really positive. And that with all of our ladies set up as well, I think it looks really bright for what's a really big community club.
Yeah. Echo very much what Ollie's just said. It's obviously we've got a thriving youth setup as well. On Friday nights for the All-Stars, Ollie brings your kids down, don't you? There's loads of people here, and the club's on the up.
With a bright future ahead of them, David believes that the club will continue providing opportunities for everyone and make sure the club does what it does the best.
Cricket is a game for everybody, and certainly the current version of the game, I think it tries to embrace every person from every background, and I think, you know, perhaps in the past it possibly hasn't as well as I think it does now. And certainly at our cricket club, I would say we do a very, very good job of putting on a lot of cricket for people of every background, gender. And I think we like I say, we're successful. We have been successful at doing that, and long may that continue.
With an action plan coming from those in the ECB by the end of September, top cricket journalist of the country, George Debelle, is hopeful that if one looks at the brighter side, this report can lead to a better future for the game.
The game has realised, and it's always economics that make it realise, sadly, that it needs a new market. And there are these markets clamouring at the gates to be let in. You know, we've got the people of colour who seem to want to be involved and play the game, and women, a group of women who seem to want to be involved and play the game. Let's just open the bloody door. It's such a simple solution. But we have a real challenge with some people who, one, seem unable to accept that there's a problem with the sport, and a group within that, I think, who actually don't want it to be equal. They don't want to share it. I think there are people at the MCC, and I should say I'm an MCC member, who don't want to share that pavilion. They want to sit in the long room on their own. They don't want it. Only, what, 25 years since they allowed women in. Amazing. So I think that there's a battle for the soul of cricket going on. I don't think that's too hyperbolic. And I think it's very, very important we win it. And if we win it, the game will be more equitable. You'll see more women, more girls playing. You'll see more people of colour playing professionally. I think that can only be a good thing. And I think that logic and right is on that side. And for that reason, I think that is what will happen.
As the report states, the challenges at the top level, things are changing at the lowest level, and HURSLEY Park are standing at the forefront of the change, or rather leading the way for that change, as it welcomes all to make cricket an everyone's game.
Welcome to HURSLEY Park Cricket Club.
Welcome to HURSLEY Park Cricket Club.
Welcome to HURSLEY Park Cricket Club. Welcome to HURSLEY Park Cricket Club.
Welcome to HURSLEY Park Cricket Club.
Welcome to HURSLEY Park Cricket Club.